Hi folks, my name's Corey Mordaunt and welcome to this, the first of the question and answer video series I'm going to be doing. I've had several questions sent to me from adults and young adults alike. And now Judith has asked, what inspires you to think up a story? Does something happen? Are you stirred by a passion, an event, or a storyline? Well, in my case, I've written several stories, short stories and articles for children and adults, and children's picture book stories, although none of those have been published yet. But I wanted to write a novel. So I signed up. Actually, it was my third course with the Institute of Children's Literature in Redding, Connecticut. And the instructor asked me for two possible storylines. And the first one I sent, I wanted to write a fantasy for children. But the instructor said no, and this is good for me to know, is that you need to know what's happening in the marketplace. Now this was back in 2012, and hadn't even occurred to me. But she said it would be really, really hard to place, like get this one published if I went ahead with a children's fantasy. So I came up with a second option, and that was to write historical fiction. And the second point is write about what you know. So when I was in grade 13, way back when grade 13 existed, our principal, Ab Wiles, Ripley District High School, during a math class, and he was veered off somehow, and he was telling us about the Great Storm of 1913, November 1913. And while he was talking about this storm, which did a lot of devastation, I was thinking about this man in my mind. I was picturing this tall, lanky, bearded, massive bearded man standing 80 feet above the ground on the gallery that goes around the lantern room outside in the midst of this hurricane, furiously trying to scrape the ice off the window so that the light could shine through. And I knew a little bit about that because I grew up in that area, and Point Clark was familiar. And as Ab Wiles was talking about this, that was the picture in my mind. And in the story, it actually turned out to be a almost 13-year-old boy who was standing on the gallery, furiously scraping the ice off the window. So that is where that part of the storyline came from. This actually happened. The third thing is it's something that you are passionate about. And as I started to research the story, I discovered that one of the ships that went down, the James Carruthers, was en route from Fort William to Collingwood and somehow veered south during the storm. They got out of their trajectory where they're supposed to be heading and went very, very close to the Point Clark shore. And Point Clark juts out into Lake Huron at that point, and there's a shoal there, which is quite dangerous, and that's why the light is there in the first place. And I got really quite excited. I mean, it was dangerous. A lot of people lost their lives. Bodies were washed ashore as a result of the ship going down. But I became passionate about it, and realizing that, you know, this really did happen. This was true. So another thing is I write to deadlines, and I had to come up with a storyline. And if, you know, you can come up with a storyline down the road or whatever, but if you want to get your story written, you have to come up with a storyline at some point in time. And so those were the things that prompted me to come up with a storyline. I think there was passion was included. It was an event, so several of the things that you mentioned in the question, Judith. And so that's what inspired me to think up the story. I hope that's helpful, and it has ended up in this book, Keep the Light Burning, available through brucedalepress.ca. Thanks for watching.